Okay, here we are on exercise 17 in lesson 21. So we're nearly finished with the platform jumper. We just need to add a little bit of code here for collecting the items, and then we're going to customize it. A couple of these exercises here, just you checking out some of the games that they've come up with and looking at some of the features that you can add to your own game to personalize it. So, here we go. We want to last you'll want your player to collect the items falling from the top of the screen. So you need a collect items function and add it to the functions area of your code. Use the if and is touching blocks to change the x and y position of the item when the player touches them. You can look at the loop item function for clues in how to reset the item position. Inside your if statement, add a counter pattern that will increase the score every time the player touches an item. Look at lesson 16, puzzle 9 for an example. Call the function inside the draw loop in the update sprites area of your code. Run the code and test your function. So let's go ahead and we'll just call the function here. We got player lands that we did last time. So now we're going to add the collect items function. And then we actually have to code up the collect items function down here at the bottom. So function collect items, and we're just going to check to see if the player is touching, player.is touching, and then we're going to do that for star1. I believe that's what we call them, star1 and star2. Okay. So there we go. If player is touching star1, then we've got to increase the score. So we say score equals score plus 1. And then we also have the reset the function or reset the location of star1. And we already did that in loop items. So right here, we could just call loop items, but it's only going to do it if we have the item is above 410. So all we got to do is just copy this code right here, these two lines in the loop items. We just say Control C, and then we're going to do it again down here, Control V. And that takes care of the first item. And then we're just going to copy and paste this entire section of code for the second item. So copy and paste. And then we change all of the 1s to a 2 for star2. And we keep the score the same because it's the same variable no matter what. And there we go. So now we should be able to increase the score as we collect those items. So you can see here I've got able to get this score pretty good. Mine's a little bouncy when it hits those platforms, though. I might want to work on that. And everything's going kind of fast. I'd slow stuff down a little bit. But there you go. I'm up to 16. So that's the basic platform game, and that's kind of following the instructions that they gave. And we even have already, we've coded in the changing of the background since we did that back in the beginning. And so we have the second background here, which of course you can add a third or even a fourth background depending on the score that people are able to obtain. So this gives us kind of the basic platform jumper game. But let's look at some of the examples that they're giving. So there's a plane jumper. This is another example of a platform jumper, but it has a few more features. You can use it to get ideas to improve your own game. For example, there's a coin sprite that gives the player an extra life. So on here we've got this plane with these different platforms. If we get the clouds, then we can get a score. I'm not quite sure how you lose life. Maybe you go off the bottom of the screen. So let's see if I go off. Yep, there we go. So if I go off the bottom of the screen, then I lose a life, and if I get my coin, then I can gain a life. Notice as well how their platforms are kind of random. They're not at the set intervals that we have in the platform jumper that we created. So something to think about as well. So uh, choose one or more of the following changes and add them to your game. Make a new animation for your player, your platform, your items. Make it impossible for your player to go off the left or the right of the screen. You also can, oh, let me close this. Add a different type of item for the player to collect or avoid. Add a variable that keeps track of how many lives the player has, and end the game if the player runs out of lives. So that's a game that you can kind of check out and think about how they coded that and how you'd like to code that if those are some changes you want to make. Here's another example of the jumper. In this case, the more items they get, the faster everything falls. The items also bounce off of the platforms. And I just lost the bunny. Oh, there's the bunny. So um, you can make another background and make it appear when the score gets even higher. You can make your items interact with the platforms in some way. So lots of other opportunities for changes that you can make in your game here in these examples they're giving. And so then finally, you're back to your game. And the challenge here is you need to make some changes. So improve your game by adding in 2 or more of the features you saw in the last examples. So in order to get full credit for this particular lesson, you really need to customize it and make it different, make it yours. They didn't even mention adding any music into this. Many of you have been adding music to some of your games before, so that is definitely something you can consider as well. So hopefully through the course of these videos, you're able to get everything figured out and get this game to work for you and to understand what's going on, and more importantly, to be able to think about what are you going to do to create your own game. They've taken you through now 2 different games, the Cake Defender and this platform jumper, from start to finish. And so now you've got to think about, well, what do I want to do for my game, and what does it want to look like? What are the sprites I want to have, or the functions I need to use? Because that's what we're going to be working on next week, is finishing up this unit and finally creating your own game that you've designed. So good luck, and I can't wait to see what you come up with.